organized by the CPGPO, located in Luxembourg, and ASP in Switzerland. So if you can put the slides, Paulus. And I'm Dalia from Luxembourg. I will be moderating with you the conference. So CPGPO and ASP are two non-profit organizations and members of the ESSP who dedicated their time to support the Palestinians by defending their rights, spreading awareness, strengthening the relationship between them and Europe, and far more. They organize many events, activities, and projects that relate to the Palestinians' culture, history, social circumstances, political stance, economical situation, etc. And to learn more about them, you'll find in the YouTube the links to the organization. For tonight, we are honored to have Amira Hass as our guest. Amira Hass is an Israeli journalist and an author mostly known for the columns in the daily newspaper Haaretz, covering Palestinian affairs in West Bank and Gaza, where she has lived more than 30 years, a daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors, and a book author of Drinking the Sea of Gaza, Days and Nights in a Land Under Siege, an author of Reporting from Ramallah, an Israeli journalist in an occupied land, and author of Diary of Bergen-Belsen, 1944-1945. She has received many awards, among which the World Press Freedom Hero Award, the Golden Dove of Peace Prize, the Bruno Kreisky Human Rights Award, the UNESCO World Press Freedom Prize, the Reporters Without Borders Prize for Press Freedom. Thank you, Amira, for being with us. Thank you so much for giving us your time without expecting any return and just to spread awareness about the situation in the region. Before I hand the mic for you, Amira, I would just like to tell our audience that they would be able to write questions on YouTube channel, whether they write it in English, Arabic, French, or German. We will be able to ask as much as possible at the end of this session. And please, if we do face any technical issues, keep tuned. Just refresh the YouTube link and we will definitely be back. So welcome again, Amira, and the mic is yours. Please, if we do face any technical issues, keep tuned. Yeah. So welcome again, Amira.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening to all. I cannot see you, but at least I see Dalia, which is comforting. The subject that I'm going to talk is less comforting. Look, I have a problem because I hear myself now. I hear double.
Do you have
I don't know what
something else on the computer?
I think I have to open. Wait,
We lost Amira. We lost her for a second, but we're trying to reach her. Just give us a few minutes. Okay, we think we're getting her back. Be patient with us. Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
No worries, Amira. It happens. This happens.
Yeah, I do hear an echo, but I'll try to manage it.
Yeah.
In September 1998, 23 years ago, wow, no, the echo is terrible.
We'll try changing it. We'll try changing the mic, Amira, meanwhile. So.
All right.
Do you hear still echoes?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Is it
now
better?
Not.
Oh, okay, excellent. So
I
now
hope
we
so.
can continue. Yeah,
Yeah.
now we can continue.
Okay.
Thanks for that,
All right.
Amira.
So in September 1998, when I was around 1 year already in the West Bank, it was the picking of olive season, as it just ended recently here in the West Bank. And one kept hearing about attacks of settlers and vandalism against Palestinian trees, olive trees mostly, all over the West Bank. So I went to some of the places that were hit hardest by this vandalism. And people, of course, had no doubt that the vandalism is perpetuated by Israeli settlers. But there was no visual documentation, only the very sad and distressing sight of burnt trees or cut trees, mutilated trees all over. I went to the village of Hawara with some of the farmers who wanted to show me their burnt orchards at the top of a hill, and not far away from it was the settlement called Yitzhar. We went there together. There was another Israeli person following me. She was a film director and a photographer. And we went there in a huge truck because it was a very steep road to it. And I still remember those burnt trees scattered around in between some rocks. It was a Saturday and it was a Jewish holiday. So double holy for observant Jews. And all of a sudden we saw some people dressed in white shirts, as Orthodox Jews wear on Saturdays, standing next to some constructions that we knew later that they were illegal constructed rooms or something like that. Illegal means without permit from the Israeli authorities. They bent down to a shooting position and they started shooting at us. Now there were some rocks, but not big enough to hide behind, and the trees was not a good hide. It was quite scary. The guy who was filming, the cameraman was filming them, but then there was no way to stop them. I stood up and I started shouting in Hebrew, "Are you allowed to shoot on a Saturday?" Now, I couldn't say that you are shooting at Jewish people because this would be shame, of course. They were shooting at everybody because these were Palestinians. They didn't know that there were some Jews there. And immediately they stopped shooting. They climbed down the hill with a huge dog. I don't know, kind of an attack dog, which I don't know which kind. They snatched the camera from the cameraman. It was a huge camera. They snatched the camera. He wasn't preparing himself for this. There was a soldier next to them standing quite helplessly, not able to stop them, not able to defend anybody. He looked embezzled. This I remember. And then, the Palestinians threw stones at them to keep them away. They threw stones back. The soldier probably called the army. In some time, there was army and police. The camera was gone. And then we went down there was a kind of a police post down near the village where we were shown some photos and had to identify. I couldn't identify anybody of the attackers because, they looked very much pretty much the same to me, I must say. And it is through the action and the fear, you don't really remember faces. And that's it. And after a few months, we were told that the file is closed because they could not find the suspects. Since then, I have been in several other occasions when settlers attacked the people with whom I was, including myself. One time, even when I was on my own in Hebron. And I must say that these attacks of settlers had an effect on me. I think twice before I joined some of the Israeli groups that go, for example, to help Palestinians in Haaretz or herding their sheep in areas which are heavy with such settlers' violence. I think twice because it's frightening, because it's scary, because I don't have the courage that other of my Israeli friends on the Israeli left wing have, who have been attacked several times by settlers. And just to show you an illustration, I will ask you to show the first video that I sent you.
Yeah, the first video, we will share the first video at a second.
ابعد ايدك، هي ابعد ايدك.
مستوطنين. والله زمان اللي واقف هين. والله. تعال انزلي.
ابن الحرام بيقنص على الشباب.
Yeah, this was a short compilation of such attacks, well documented, filmed, of just the last few months all over the West Bank. And all the elements that I experienced and I witnessed 23 years ago, all of these elements of a settlers attack are present in the examples that you saw and in so many others that happen almost on a daily basis, if not more. First of all, they attack on Saturdays and holidays. This is very important because on Saturdays, Orthodox Jews are not allowed even to put the light on or to set on the oven. And here we see people very often on Saturdays who also shoot, use the gun and shoot, let alone breaking windows or breaking cars or throwing stones at people. This is one element that was there 23 years ago and today. The second element is that most of them come out of what we call outposts. That even according to the very, very lenient Israeli law concerning construction settlements in the West Bank, even according to this law, these are illegal constructions or illegal farms or illegal and unauthorized outposts. So most of these outposts are known to be violent, but also these outposts are extensions of existing settlements. That some of the existing settlements were 20 years ago or 15 years ago themselves an illegal outpost that with the time was laundered by the Israeli authorities. Then you very often have some armed people. Not all of them are armed with guns, but many of them are. Very often they also have dogs with them. Very often they have soldiers next to them who not only do nothing to stop them, but they also, if there are Palestinians who defend themselves by throwing stones at their attackers, the settlers throw sun grenades and sometimes even shoot at the people, at the Palestinians who defend themselves. Another element, another characteristic of these attacks is that the culprits are not found, or if they are found, they are not put to trial. So there is one of the Israeli organizations that follows that they are the handling of such complaints of Palestinians. Yesh Din has discovered that around 90% or has estimated that around 91% of the complaints are not even being are closed before they even reached a charge sheet. So they are closed before for all kinds of reasons. Either the person was not found, or there was no interest for the public, etc. All kind of such pretexts. The phenomenon of these attacks has been growing steadily over the years. So I will ask you to show the map.
Okay, so presenting the map, we will put the map in the screen in a minute.
Yeah. So this is has become, those attacks have become a permanent phenomenon. It's a daily occurrence now, and you see here on this map of the West Bank, a map of OCHA showing until 2018, showing the areas where there is most which are subject to settlers' violence, where the darkest orange is where the violence is heaviest.
And the white areas are.
The white areas
Yes,
are
are-
there are almost no Palestinians. It is the
Okay.
Jordan Valley, or no settlements like Jenin area has been evacuated of most of its settlers in 2005.
Because there are areas that seem to be like Jericho and so on.
Yeah, there are areas where either the Israeli, not everywhere there are Palestinians, or the settlers don't feel the need to exercise violence. And what's very important to comment is that those attacks, which were registered by OCHA, it's the UN office for coordinating office for humanitarian affairs. So their cases do not include just violence that did not result in casualties or in injured in damage to property. So it's just attacks that have resulted in such casualties and damage. There are many others, like I can tell in Hebron, on a constant basis, settlers harass Palestinians, but this is not being recorded here because it's too many. So you can now show the table that I sent you.
Yeah, if you can present the table. No, the actual table. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Yeah, so here you can see, and again, this is only the data with only data of attacks which resulted in casualties and in damage. So you see vandalized properties, trees. You see the increase, steady increase, and this year is until 30th of September. You should easily add another 50 attacks to the 420 that were registered already.
Yeah, it's 4 times more than the injured and the killed. Wow.
So
yeah. And those are only the reported, registered.
Yeah, this is all the attacks that were registered and ended in them and injuries and damage, and in some cases even killing of Palestinians by settlers or settlers and soldiers together, like 5 this year, and most of them I think in May, during when there was an attack, another onslaught on Gaza, and there were demonstrations in the West Bank. Accidentally, after we chose the subject for this talk, B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights organization which documents Israeli policies in the West Bank and Gaza, published a report. It was on Sunday. They published this new report called State Business: Israel's Misappropriation of Land in the West Bank through settlers' violence. This report took as a sample 5 areas in the West Bank in which there are 9 outposts and 1 settlement, which have been especially busy, violent over the past 10 years. The calculations of this report, for example, is that just 4 new outposts that were established in the last 5 years managed to take over the size around 20 square kilometers of Palestinian land in 5 areas of the West Bank, as I told you. It's more than Geneva, for example. Geneva is 16 square kilometers. I just checked, and they took over Palestinian land of 20 kilometers. We are talking about individual farms, people who just have one family who got the money somehow to have a huge herd of sheep or of cows, and have some people, some young people, violent young people, who help them to go out with the sheep or the cows, and they just threaten everybody around, and they go to lands which have been cultivated or used as pasture by Palestinians for tens, if not hundreds of years. The report goes and examines what those outposts have done. It all nine outposts and one settlement. And it reached in those 5 areas 28 square kilometers. But we know that there is much more land that settlers' violence has managed to take over from Palestinians over the past 10 or 20 years. And it goes like this. The settlers go, attack Palestinians. Palestinians try to defend themselves. Then soldiers come and call the area, declare the area closed military zone. And don't allow the Palestinians to reach their land. If it's about sheep, settlers come again and again, take over, for example, the cistern where there is water for the sheep, and frighten the young kids who go with the sheep, frighten them, and they don't dare to come back. Then more and more shepherds stop going to the pastures and just give up on it and buy fodder for their animals, which is much more expensive and not healthy, neither for the people who use the products nor for the sheep or the goats, and so on and so forth. So by this violence, the settlers create larger and larger circles from where Palestinians, which Palestinians cannot use or cannot reach. One of the leaders of the settlers movement, who is heading a settlers settling company, which called Amana, spoke very openly last February. Spoke very openly about the achievement of those outposts. He said that the individual outposts, where you have just one family with the sheep or the cows, can get hold of land much more than built settlements. He counted and said that the overall built settlements, built area of settlements is 100 square kilometers, while in the last 10 years or more, the outposts, again with only a few people, managed to get hold and to grab Palestinian land in the size of 200 square kilometers. It's like Zurich, Lausanne, the city of Luxembourg, and Geneva all together. And he says this is much more effective. He, of course, did not speak about the violence, but we know that it's effective because of the violence. Now, if I compare the attacks of today to the attack that I experienced 23 years ago, I could say a few things. First of all, today there is many of the attacks are being immediately screened and photographed and screened and shown all over, and still it does not on social media, and still it does not disturb the settlers. They continue and do it. Some of them are masked, but it's very easy to locate them if somebody wanted, and some of them are not even do not even hide their faces. Now, soldiers, not only that they stand by and do nothing, sometimes they even obey to the orders of the settlers, and they arrest Palestinians or even hit them, as happened several times also to Israeli activists who come and join the Palestinian shepherds. The settlers also use, in the last years, they use drones. They have surveillance drones that they use and that invade into Palestinian areas and then spy on them. And by spying on them, they tell the Israeli authorities like about every so-called illegal construction or unauthorized construction, that Palestinians build, such as schools or a little kitchen or even a toilet that Palestinians dare to put on their own land, private land, or a generator that the Palestinians use. The drone comes and gives the information. And another feature that is very standing out now is that in every settlement you have a security coordinator who is a settler but nominated in coordination with the army and with the Ministry of Defense, Israeli Ministry of Defense, so-called defense. And very often those security coordinators are participating in the attacks, in the armed attacks. They are also allowed to use arms and they participate in the attacks. The solution of the state is to, as I said before, and solution in quote unquote, is to prevent the Palestinians from reaching their land. People who have trees, orchards, are allowed to reach the orchards 3 times per year. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dunams are barred from Palestinian use now, and farmers can work their land only 3 times per year, which means only if they have olive trees, they can go and get something out of the olive trees, because you cannot grow vegetables if you are allowed to go only 3 times a year. Show me a farmer in the world who will agree or who will reach anything by by going to the land 3 times. So we see 2 patterns. We see the pattern of settlers' violence all over the West Bank since the 90s, in parallel to the Oslo Agreement, and we see the pattern of the state's idleness. I cannot say helplessness, because it is a decision to be idle and not to prosecute, not to find the attackers, not to punish them, and not to stop the violence. So there is only one conclusion that we can have, that it serves the purpose of the state to take over more land from Palestine, as much land as possible from Palestinians, and to condense the Palestinians into very dense and urbanized, artificially urbanized enclaves in the West Bank. This is the only conclusion that one can have after all these years. I will ask you now to show the last video. We'll skip the photos. The last video, and I'll say a few words on this. And
so we will show the last video. We'll skip the photos and show the last video.
not this, I don't know.
It's not this one.
No, it's with the playground.
Okay. So it's the one on Facebook.
This is the report, but no, it's one with the playground.
We'll show it in a second. We can
Yeah.
we can show the pictures if you want while we get the video
Sure.
on.
What we will see shortly is the playground in Sucia. Oh, well,
this one we're showing the photos.
These are
just
stills. Yeah,
time.
we didn't. These are the photos. This is an Israeli rabbi who has been working for 30 years, and he's being attacked by settlers in one of the villages. So if we can skip it and now reach the
we're getting
last video.
Yeah,
okay.
We're getting their video, Amira.
Okay, so here you see again, and this is a place where they keep attacking. It's known that they keep attacking, and the army should have been there to protect because it is an area known to be subject to settlers' violence. And they broke the hand of one activist, Israeli woman activist. And as you see, they attacked two others, were wounded as well. And soldiers were not there, but they were not far away, and they just let them attack.
Yeah.
And this happened just on Friday, and a week before it happened in the same place too. The settlers attack in the same place.
And the army just stands there basically.
The army was far away and didn't. Yeah, here is the last video. Okay.
אם האנשים האלה, פלסטינים, היו עושים אותו דבר כמו שהם עושים עכשיו, רובם היו במעצר, אם לא חלק מהם מתים, ואתם עומדים פה, כאילו זה פאקינג העבודה שלכם לשמור על מחבלים! תעיפו אותם! עכשיו! בואי נשחק! בואי נבט אליי, מה?
Okay.
So it's really provoking, basically, with the.
Let me. Yeah, this is.
Hey! לעזוב אותם עכשיו! Are you fucking serious?
Wow. So that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
The village is Sucia. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a village in south of the West Bank, south of Yatta. In one of the villages, it was already expelled one time from its original site, and the people who were expelled in '85 from their original site went and remained on their own lands, private lands, since many generations, and the state regards their community as illegal, and they want to push them they want them to go and live in the city of Yatta and to leave their land. Nearby, there is a settlement called Sucia as well, which has stolen a lot of the land of the Palestinian Sucia. And here you saw the settlers invading already at the second time. The first time they invaded by drone, invading a playground that according to Israeli laws is illegally constructed, because everything there is, the Israelis don't allow the Palestinians even to have water, or to connect to the water, or to connect to the electricity. As all over, wherever I talk, on all these areas where there is settlers' violence, the state on its part does not allow Palestinians to develop, to build, to connect to the water grid, to connect to the electricity grid. And here the settlers invade the playground as a statement that the playground is so-called illegal. They have already filed, a group of settlers already filed a complaint, and I think a petition to court demanding the state to demolish all the houses of the Palestinian Sucia. But this is exactly what the state wants to do as well.
Yeah.
So as the report, it's the violence of the settlers in the service of the state. It serves the purpose, the very declared and undeclared purpose of the Israeli state.
So Palestinians have little options in this case. They don't have much options.
Look, the truth is that, you know, many Palestinians heroically have remained in their communities all over the West Bank in what's called the Area C, where Israel, has kept for undeveloped for Palestinians over all through these years. And they continue to live shepherd communities and farming communities in spite of all the difficulties. But the violence manages to do things that the Israeli official restrictions have not managed. So Palestinians who have left their communities in some areas, especially in the northern West Bank, or restrict themselves in their movement in the south because of the violence, what the Israeli official restrictions have not done before.
Yeah. So basically, victims cannot report incidents. Activists.
Look, they report, but it doesn't.
It
doesn't. The Israeli army and the Israeli police don't do anything about it. The Israeli police, the Israeli state attorney, even if a case comes to the court, sometimes judges are very lenient. So the whole system is giving us the message that it does not want to punish the settlers. It does not intend to punish the settlers. It does not intend to look to find people, even in cases where people were killed by settlers. And there is no doubt that they were killed by settlers. There is very little effort to find them.
I have an interesting question from actually the audience, if you don't mind me, Amira, asking.
Sure.
Because you mentioned, well, you have strong views about it for obvious reasons, but how does the general Israeli citizens perceive what's happening? Are they even aware of what's happening?
Look, it's very difficult not to be aware now with social media and when everything is filmed. But the Israeli the mainstream media hardly reports about these issues, only if it's really very, excuse my word, sexy, if it's very, if an Israeli correspondent was there by accident. Only if it's very, very violent will they say anything about it, and not give much importance, and not follow the cases. If there is every such a incident, or every 2 days, it's not being reported. But again, this issue is not about even the mainstream, because there are ways to get it through the social media. So people started to take it as a, like if they do report about it, it's clashes. So like they put it like symmetrical, not that it is settlers attacking Palestinians who defend themselves, but it's clashes. And the settlers' machine of propaganda is very strong, and they also disseminate their lies after every such incident. And also the words that they use is kind of brainwashing, using, for example, about every piece of land as state land. I never say about a state if it's private or if it's collective. It's Palestinian land, either private or collective. But the state has its tricks to declare a certain piece of land as state land, which in Israeli jargon means land for Jews only and not for Palestinians.
Yeah.
At the beginning, when there were some activists in Hebron who started to film settlers' violence, and then B'Tselem itself started to give Palestinians in these areas that are at risk because of settlers' violence, started to give them video cameras to show. So at the beginning, it made some commotion. It rose people's it alerted people at the beginning. But now it seems that we show it, and who is interested? Only people on the left, and people who would be triggered then, therefore, to go and join the Palestinians when they go to their land and to their pastures. But overall, like the people, I feel that the Israelis don't care.
Yeah, there was also a question from Reem about is it correct? It's terminologies. Is it correct to call them settlers versus colonists? What is?
Yeah, look. Of course, it's colonists, and it's for me, settler is not a good word, so it's not. But yeah, they are colonists, of course.
Okay.
But again, settlers is not a good. Is not a positive. It does not have a positive connotation for me.
No, I also agree. It's also. We have a question from the States, from Bowling. She's asking you where you find the inspiration to stay with those issues despite all obstacles, and to kind of be a peace fighter, basically.
I don't know if I'm a peace fighter, but we lost any hope in peace. I don't think it's inspiration. I think it's mostly anger that still keeps me here.
Yeah.
And I have a responsibility as a Jew born in Israel. I have a responsibility, and the little I can do is to report.
Do you think the community that is reporting in Israel or feeling the same way you're feeling is increasing? Do we have that hope that, because you mentioned awareness is or caring is not on the same level, is at least, that part increasing in the Israeli community?
No. The Israelis have, look, some people feel completely helpless. They don't know how to change. The change should come from Israeli authorities. The change should come from Israeli court, from Israeli general attorney, from Israeli police. But there is no pressure on them. They don't feel that there is pressure on them, even though this is supposed to be a different government today, and even though that there are one party which is liberal, quite liberal, like Meretz, and another party which considers itself more, I don't know how to call it, it's center, like Labour Party, but their voices are not really heard. And all these 2 months, the season of the olive picking of olives, with all these attacks, I haven't seen any really serious alignment to put a halt to all those attacks.
Yeah. And we have a question from actually here locally from Luxembourg. What would be the settlers' ideology? What is behind that settlers' ideology? Is it economical, financial interest?
Those who are launching the attacks very often are leaning on the biblical promise of the land by God. So often you would hear them when they go and invade the Palestinian land and take over Palestinian land, they would say, God promised this to us. I followed one case that reached court and had a good result, in the sense that the settler could not prove that he was the owner of the land, but at a certain point he said, I got the land in Mount Sinai, which means when God gave the Jews whatever he gave, what it gave, or whatever, or she gave. So you quite often hear them saying, God promised us the land, and this is not Palestinian. Some of the settlers advocate the expulsion of Palestinians from the West Bank. You know, the founder of one of those organizations that spy on Palestinians and use the drones, as I mentioned before, an organization called Regavim. One of the founders is Bezalel Smotrich, an extreme right-wing messianic member of parliament. And he actually said more than often that the Palestinians should leave unless they are totally loyal to the Jewish state, or be killed if they don't obey and if they revolt, etc. So the attacks are done by people who I don't doubt they are the solution that they have in mind, but they are the silent majority of settlers that doesn't do anything to stop it or to condemn it, or sometimes says, oh, these are only rascals and some boys with, you know, extra hormones, etc. So they are happy with with getting more land for their settlements, and with seeing the Palestinians, as I said before, condensed in the enclaves, the Palestinian enclaves in the West Bank.
Yeah. It's interesting for me because you said, on one hand, you said that it comes for believing that God gave the land. On another hand, at the beginning of this, you actually used a Jewish statement which said, it's Sabbath, why are you using weapons? So that contradiction is always interesting. Why is the belief stronger on one side, not the other?
Yeah, I'm not a believer, so I just used it at that point when I said it. I said it just in order to tell them that, in order to stop them from shooting. That was my way to stop them. I'm not an observant Jew. I'm a cultural Jew. I'm culturally Jewish, but not or historically, but not. No, I don't believe in. Yes, there is a huge contradiction between what some people would find in the religious texts about humanist values that exist in any religion, I guess, but and also in Jewish religion, and between the fascist violence of those settlers and the fascist motivations of those people. There is, and I have some observant Jews, and who, like that we saw before, the guy with the blood on his face. He's a rabbi, a reformist rabbi, who's been really working for 30 years, 35 years, and has been subject to several attacks by settlers. He wears a kippah on his head. They wear a kippah on his head. And there is an abyss between the two of them.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question from Fauzia. It's she basically is asking, will there be a day where there is no return point? Could this happen?
Look, I prefer not to prophesize neither to better days or to worse days. Of course, the Israelis are, in a general, the Israeli society does not see how abnormal the reality is. And there is nobody strong enough to show the Israelis how abnormal it is. Israelis live in, enjoy their normalcy, blind totally to the abnormal situation. And I must say that the disappointment from Europe is enormous, enormous. If we didn't expect much of United States, certainly not during Trump times, but there were some expectations after Oslo from Europe that who was supportive of the establishment of a Palestinian state in the 67 occupied territory. And we feel that Europe, that is still, officially abiding by international law, is so forgiving to Israel, so lenient, so actually it punishes the Palestinians and does not take any steps against Israeli daily violation of international law and of UN resolutions and of Israeli commitments to Europe. This is very distressing.
Yeah, yeah. It actually brings us nicely to a question which was asked: is it really? What's the impact of the U.S. Influence on Israel and what's happening? Can Israel continue doing what they're doing without the U.S. tax dollars?
Look, we do have some hope sometimes from a change among the attitudes of Jews in America. And we know that there are certain things that more Jews are being appalled by the Israeli policies or Israeli certain behaviors. But again, it's not enough, and the pressure is not enough to change this policy. We see that there are American states that actually prosecute, do not allow even activists to call for civil disobedience measures such as BDS, such as sanctions or boycotting Israeli companies or Israeli official representatives. So, and there is a great fight about it. So we don't feel that the changes within the Jewish community are strong enough and deep enough in order to make American official policy change.
Yeah, yeah. I will take two more questions, I think, so that we respect the time. So I'll take first, we have a question from one audience asking, are the settlers from Elian, asking, are the settlers making the law in Israel?
As I said, they create, they push, but they work in one line in tandem with the Israeli state. If the Israeli official policy did not want to settle and to colonize the West Bank and East Jerusalem, if Israeli policymakers from 1967 didn't want it, they wouldn't have allowed individual Jews to come and steal land of Palestinians and break Israeli laws. So this is, we are talking here about a tango. We are not talking here about some Superman settlers who overcome the poor and weak state of Israel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we have a question also from Switzerland. If the attackers are intruding in Area C, wouldn't there be an illegal? Will that be illegal according to Israeli law?
Again, yes. I mean, look, the army, and I heard Benny Gantz when he was the commander of a military commander of the West Bank, and I heard him saying that the first mission of the army is to protect. The first mission in the West Bank of the army is to protect Israeli civilians, which means that any cost they want to protect the settler. So and say it so more very, very clearly. Now, even when those Jews, when those Israeli citizens attack somebody, soldiers are not allowed to touch the attackers. It's only the police. And the police doesn't, very often you have among policemen, you have people who are themselves settlers. So it is officially against the law, but the highest law is the law which not only allows, but pushes Israeli Jews to colonize the West Bank. This is the highest law.
Yeah.
So any other law is actually secondary.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take one last question before we kind of. We're getting quite a lot of questions. We have a lot of viewers online, which is good. But we'll have one last question. Apologies for anyone who I did not cover their questions. Basically, one towards more the solution. Must the solution be also binary? Taking into account, it's from Abdo, taking into account both the culture conflict and the bias of security.
Look, I think that we shouldn't use the term solution, because solution brings to mind something which is final, or it brings to mind an issue of a problem, while the two sides do not. We will say that the problem is indeed the Israeli colonialism, settler colonialism. The problem would be that Palestinians are not obedient, and that Palestinians refuse to disappear, or that Palestinians are not happy with living in the Bantustans, in the enclaves of the West Bank and Gaza. So first of all, we don't have a common definition of what the problem is. And the second thing is that nothing in history is final. So the thing is how we want to impact the next phase, that the next phase would not be worse. We now in this stage that I don't talk about, I cannot talk about big visions, because I want to stop the deterioration. And how do we impact the next phase? This is what more concerns me. And I was asked before if we will reach the point of no return. What we've learned is that things can get worse all the time. When we talk about no return, we talk about actually permanent deterioration, and I don't want even to imagine it out loud. So I think that what's needed now is really an urgent measures against Israeli violation of all international law, and in order to prevent Israel from further deteriorating the area to the point of a huge war here. I think this is what's needed now. But this cannot happen if there are no sanctions being imposed on Israel, as there were sanctions on other countries which violated international law. Israelis have to understand that this occupation and ongoing settler colonialism do not pay. So far, they were worthwhile. So far, the Israelis only profit from the state of no peace and ongoing settler colonialism with American and European complicity, and also Arab complicity. The only way to stop the deterioration and the danger of a terrible war and bloodshed is to intervene and put such sanctions on Israel that will hurt Israelis.
Yeah. On this note, Amira,
because we are, Israel is just one more.
Yeah.
Because Israel is a democracy for Jews, That's of course an oxymoron. You cannot have a democracy just for one people, but it is so. Jewish Israelis can say what they think and can act without being in danger. As for example, white people who oppose the apartheid South Africa put themselves in danger, or people in Russia put themselves in danger. We can talk and we can express our opinions, but as long as the majority of Israelis think that everything is normal and okay, and we only enjoy this occupation and settler colonialism, there will be no change.
Yeah. And I think on the level of people, it's the governments are, at the moment are not showing strong intentions to show change. So on the level of people, what can Europeans or Americans do?
Yeah, it's more, like what you do is to reach more people, more citizens of European states and America, to pressure their governments. But this is also very slow, and in a way there has been some regression, I feel, over the past years, even if whether because of the corona and other reasons.
Yeah. On this note, we have received a lot of questions, Amira, and I think time will not. I apologize if I have not read or seen your question. I wanted to thank you so much, Amira, for this. I can see from the comments and questions we have quite a lot of global audience, which hopefully that's a sign also more on a kind of positive note that people are watching us across the globe. Thank you so much for such a fruitful discussion. Thank you again. I have to highlight that you really did this out of your own time with no expectation in return, just really to spread awareness, which personally, and I think the two organizations strongly appreciate from you. Yeah, and thanks for the audience to be part of this and provide us such a rich amount of questions. I really also appreciate the fact that this is a collaboration between Switzerland and Luxembourg with, quite an international audience online. So thank you again. And
thank you.
Really much
Thank you all.
appreciated. Really much appreciated, and
you.
hope to see you soon. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good day, everyone.